Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Here, it's cold. It's getting cold and my furnace doesn't work, so not going to get repaired for 2 days. And I guess if this is a good opportunity to do an episode, which I've been neglecting to do, don't worry, I've been working on other things. We'll go over it later. But now is the perfect time to get into suit because I need to get warm because it's getting cold and hope it's temperatures are supposed to turn around. Hopefully it does, so my pipes don't freeze, because that would suck. But yeah, I have people coming in a few days to look at that because I tried to fix the thing. I cleaned the little thing, the what's it called, the sensor, flame sensor. I replaced the igniter, and still no go. Probably something with the gas flow, and I don't want to mess with the gas flow. I don't want to die of carbon monoxide poisoning. I'm going to leave that to a professional. If that kind of thing's got to get replaced. But anyways, that kind of nonsense aside, long time no see. Hopefully, now that it's getting colder, and usually I get more energy when it gets colder, which is ironic. It's sort of like how when I drink caffeine, I feel I get less energy. It's like I have more energy when people usually have less energy. It's like a flip flop. But yeah, I'm back, and we're going to be talking about a convention coming up, and that convention would be Midwest Fur Fest. It's coming up in a month and a half now, only a month and a half. It'd be the second Midwest Fur Fest, but it will be the first one that I can neither confirm nor deny that I will be at. And having a panel at 1 p.m. In the writer's blog about nonfiction furry writing on Friday. So that's going to happen, and I hope to see you there. If you do come, that'd be great. It's probably going to be more talking about technical writing and things like that. So probably will be bored and stuff like that, but obviously personal anecdotes and things like that are always welcome. I got an hour to kill, and I know how to kill that hour by yammering. Don't know if I'll have a panelist yet. Hope maybe Joe Strike. I know he's there. He's the only other nonfiction writer that I know of that would be showing up. Hopefully I don't get some weird dude, if they do throw someone at me, who's gonna have an opinion on everything. That's always the worst. But anyways, I got mitigate that kind of stuff. But anyways, but enough about myself, because I know you obviously probably were wondering what's been going on with me. So I just wanted to add that into there. But for anyone else, I'll put a timestamp here as to basically getting started on this particular topic, which is basically room lotteries and the hashtag of NoMFF. So for those of you who are not aware, probably about a month ago, about a month ago at this point, or a few weeks ago, Midwest Fur Fest finally put in their room lottery so that people who wanted to attend could put their name in the name of a few people who are roommates, to be able to become, in order to reserve a room for the convention rates, which there are limited rooms and a limited amount of hotels, basically blocks that people can reserve rooms for. So now the odds go up if you have more people to a point. I think it's, if you have 3 or 4, then you get, on higher odds than if you're by yourself. And if you have 2, 3, or 4, I think you have higher odds. But room lotteries are becoming more common in the furry fandom, whether people like them or not. And what I mean by that is, obviously, when Midwest Fur Fest announced the winners of the lottery, every person who didn't win let everybody know that they didn't win. Because, obviously, it is a letdown. People who are more, it's a more emotional thing to know that you didn't get one of those rooms than to get one of those rooms. So obviously more people who didn't get those rooms were speaking on the Twitter. And then obviously the whole, 5 stages of grief come into play. And the people who are like, it becomes like, at first it starts off as like, oh, well, nobody I know got a room. And there's obviously reasons for that. Because the people who got a room, right, as soon as if they say, hey, man, I got a room, first off, there's a lot of ticked off people on the social media right now who are going, I didn't get a room! And so, not a good time, to do the whole, look, I got a room, haha. That's the thing about human beings and their ability to acquire, or if they become lucky, right? If they are lucky enough to have good fortune, right? And that the people who didn't have good fortune are upset and angry and kind of in a fervor. The people with good fortune, it's not a good time just for them to go, hey, look, I won, right? You don't, unless you're a fool, if you win the lottery, you don't go, hey, I won the lottery, because then everybody all of a sudden knows you, you know what I mean? So that's another sort of thing where, people who won rooms may not have room for anyone else, but they're certainly going to get people, going, do you have room for me? Do you have room for me? Do you have room for me? My room's full up, by the way. Just putting it out there. So just going to be saying that that can sort of happen, right? And so you can't use social media, and using social media as a measurement tool for, whether there's bad things going on or whether there's good things going on, it's not very effective, right? Because as you all know, some people got fooled into thinking that, a certain election was rigged, right? Enough to do something really bad, right? At a certain place, right? In 2021, right? So that sort of thing happens a lot with this too. With this room thing, it's like, oh, it's rigged, or it's not. It's unfortunately sort of a necessary evil, and the reason that it has become a necessary evil is many points. I think mainly 2 major points. One is that the people who wish to attend furry conventions is growing, and because of that growth and limited resources, whether limited room blocks or limited space or limited things such as that, being able to, delegate and do all these different things, it kind of limits the amount of space and amount of rooms that people can take, especially for a large international convention like Midwest Fur Fest. Wow. Brain functions well in the cold. But a lot of people say, well, they have a larger one that's for anime that takes place in the same place. But you have to take into consideration how international is that convention. Because for furries, Midwest Fur Fest is the big one, right? We have furries. Furries, we're much more niche, whether we like to admit it or not, than anime. Anime fans are all over the place, and I'm sure there are plenty of anime fans in Chicago, right? So the amount of people that can commute in something like an anime convention, even if it has twice the amount of people or 3 times the amount of people attending as our convention, there's probably, as a comparison of percentage, there's probably a larger percentage of locals who go to that convention, that anime convention, because there's larger anime conventions out there in the world. If you really wanted to see the sort of global scale sort of anime convention, you can go to a larger one outside of Chicago. For furries, it's Anthrocon or Chicago or Midwest Fur Fest, right? And those are the 2 big global ones. Furry Week in Atlanta is getting up there, but as a whole, that's sort of how that one goes. So it's much more niche. It's much more spread out. There's much more different people coming from all over the place. And because of that, there's more demand for the hotel rooms. So that's going to cause that kind of bottleneck. The demand is one side, but also the other second thing is the issue of, people who are going to try to scalp, whether they're inside the fandom or outside the fandom. So people who use bots, like one of the things that happened in one of the earlier Midwest Fur Fest is that people could, it was basically like, ready, set, go! They're off to the races. And they did do that before. And what ended up happening is that, I know, people complained on Twitter. I know, right? It's a thing that happens no matter what you do. But, they were like, oh, I couldn't get into the room. Why is the site's down? I can't get into the site. It's like there's too much man on the site. I can't get in. And then, basically, by the time they did get in, after, a few hours, hey, all those rooms were sold out. And that is a big problem, right? So, basically, people, and then furries were like, well, that means that people with closer connections, with better tech, can basically beat people that don't have the greatest internet connection or other things. So it kind of sways things in the favor of the people who have more technical ability, or people who have a lot of money to buy a lot of rooms to scalp them off, or et cetera, et cetera. Outside of Midwest Fur Fest, one of the most infamous situations happened at what used to be Rocky Mountain Fur Con in 2016. I think it was 2016 or 2015. But I think it's penultimate year. Or the year that, or I think it was actually, maybe it's last year. But they had gone through and done the motions for the other year before they had to cancel. But basically, a group, an infamous furry group, that we've talked about on this channel before, had gathered up, basically had bought out a bunch of rooms in the hotel block, and were basically, quote unquote, giving them away for free. But since the organization had infamous political leanings, a lot of furries are like, yeah, it's probably not a free lunch, right? So basically at that point, that's one of the catalysts that kind of caused the confrontation with that organization, and basically caused that conflict to come to a head, which ultimately was the closure of Rocky Mountain Fur Con. So likewise, the room lottery sort of prevents that kind of gaming of the system in some ways. Obviously, it's not perfect. Obviously, there's some flaws. Obviously, somebody could still probably game it if they really wanted to. But I think that at the end, if the game, the people who are in charge of the game can probably see a lot easier if somebody is trying to, get into multiple lotteries and get into multiple things, and then kind of find people who are abusing the system and talk to them in private about not abusing the system again, giving them a warning, or maybe even banning them from room lotteries in the future. So it's sort of a security measure in that way as well. But still, it does suck for the people who don't get there, for the people who are not able to acquire a room, for people who are not able to get into that kind of gathering. So what would a good suggestion be? If room lotteries are the future of our conventions, my best piece of advice would be this. Have a good cluster, a small cluster, like of 3 or 4 people, of 1 or 2 or 3 other people, right? That and you trust. And you also wouldn't mind, even if you couldn't, even if you weren't together in a convention space, you wouldn't mind hanging out with them and being chummy in a non-convention space, like in a small meet or anything like that. Furries who may know where you live and know where they live, and you know are good friends that may live some distance away, right? Not like local furries, not furries that you could see anytime, anywhere, any day of the week, but maybe some people who live a little further out, right? Maybe 4 or 5 hours from where you live, right? Like that you don't really get to see all that often during the year. And what you do is you get together with those folks and you go, I really like you, and we never get to really see each other that often. Let's try to go into the room lottery together. And so what you try to do is you get into that room lottery, and you make an agreement as you get into that room lottery, which is, this is ride or die, which is, if we get the room, then we all go to the convention, right? We can plan, if the trips align, then do that, or if you need to do separate trips because you do live separately, do that. But it's ride or die. So if you succeed, you all go to the convention, you all have a good time, you all hopefully don't drive each other crazy being roommates. But if you don't make it, you all agree then and there, what is the plan B? Like, who's got the biggest place? Who's got the most activities to do at their house? Who can be the host? And what should the guests bring? Have a little get together. And if you have other things that you do, if one of them's an artist or one of them's a streamer, it's like y'all hang out and do streams and do art trades and do things that you normally wouldn't get to do. Have a Christmas party, right? Take the opportunity. Instead of trying to run around the Hyatt Center, Regent Center, and the convention and the Stephen Lawrence, it's not the Stephen Lawrence, it's some other guy, the Rosemont Convention Center. Jeez. Go to the Rosemont Convention Center and frickin' run around like a madman trying to figure out where the ballroom is. Instead of doing that, take some time for yourself. Take some time to enjoy a small group of friends. And then, if you fail the room lottery, you're not going to feel angry. You're going to feel, hey, this sucks. I really wanted to see a lot more of my friends, but at least we got like a small group that I really, really want to see and haven't seen in a while. In my opinion, as our furry fandom grows larger, and as our coronavirus situation should have shown us, sometimes the simpler solution is to think smaller. Don't think grandiose. Don't think trying to chase large numbers. Don't fear missing out of the large brouhaha, right? Because there will be other opportunities. Be there for each other this Christmas. Be there for each other. Have a small little get-together if you need to. And maybe you'll have better luck next year. And if you're feeling very charitable, if you're feeling very giving, then if you do succeed in getting a room lottery, maybe you say, hey, if we succeed at getting the room lottery next year, we're going to let other furries try. Right? We're going to stay out of it, and we're going to let other furries have their shot. And then basically we'll try again the year after, and then until we get to another MFF and do that. So kind of plan it out and say, hey, if we win, let's go have fun at Midwest Fur Fest. But maybe next year, instead of competing for other seats and things like that, maybe we hold back and allow other furries who might have not had an opportunity to go next year. If you're feeling really charitable. But, if you're in the Christmas spirit, but that's up to you, right? So as for me, I'll be going, I'll be there, I'll see some of you there, I'm sure. Hopefully, I'll probably walk about as I normally am. Hopefully things aren't too expensive, but they're probably going to be somewhat expensive. Just be aware of that. Things are going to be a little more expensive this year. But it's not going to be as bad as it was last year. I don't think. Well, it might still be a little bad. It might be a little worse than last year. I don't know. But I haven't been to a convention since 2020, since March 2020, early March 2020. So I think it's about time for me to get back in the saddle. And hopefully I'll get back in the saddle here too. But anyways, as far as that goes, thank you very much for watching. If you're sure to like this kind of content, kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. Are you going to Midwest Fur Fest? If so, you so lucky. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes fortune favors the fortunate. Matt Damon would say, I guess. Anyways, have a good one, guys, and we'll see you. Hopefully, I'll make a video before Midwest Fur Fest. You better do that, because that's not great. Come on, you have plenty of stuff to cover. Come on, get with it, man. Get with it.